I'm a doctor. All my life I believed in the brain, in chemistry, in things that could be measured. I didn't believe in the soul, and certainly not in God. But then I died, and everything I once believed shattered. I used to teach my students that consciousness was nothing more than electrochemical activity in the brain. If the heart stops beating, everything ends. So then, why was I still fully aware after being struck by lightning and my heart had stopped? The moment I left my body wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I tried calling my son, even though he hadn't answered my calls in 2 years. I just wanted to hear his voice, even for a second. But he didn't pick up. Just as I was about to hang up, lightning struck the power pole right beside me. A deafening explosion, a flash of white light, and then silence. If you no longer have a body, yet you can still feel, still think, still see, what does that mean? I'm not telling this story to convince you to believe. I'm sharing it because I've seen things that human language simply can't describe. And if you've ever lost someone, you need to hear the rest. I used to think I understood everything about life, but the truth is, I had never really lived. But that wasn't the part that shook me the most. The thing that truly changed me wasn't death itself. It was the question I was asked after I died. I used to think I was living life to the fullest. A packed schedule, international conferences, articles published in medical journals. Every day, I wore my white lab coat like armor against emotion, against pain, and the nagging questions about meaninglessness. I can't even remember the last time I hugged my son. Maybe it was on his 12th birthday. Or maybe before that. I once told him something that sounded very scientific. Emotions make you weak. The brain needs logic, not dependence on others. He stayed silent, but his eyes, they hurt. Back then, I didn't see it, but now I remember it clearly, as if someone had recorded every look onto a reel of neural film. My wife, my ex-wife, once said to me, "You're standing outside of everyone, outside of me, and even yourself." I scoffed. I thought she was being overly emotional. I was proud of how well I kept everything under control. The only thing I couldn't control was the growing emptiness inside me. I used to stand in front of the mirror, tighten my tie, fix my hair, spray a little cologne, and walk out the door like a perfect replica of the man I was yesterday. Every day felt like a photocopy, polished, but soulless. I had forgotten what it felt like to live, not just to exist, not just to chase deadlines, but to truly live with others and with myself. Until that day. A storm rolled in without warning. I was at a state park, waiting for my son to meet me. He never showed. I decided to call one last time before heading home. I lifted the phone. Busy signal. I waited. My heartbeat beat gently. I waited. Above me, the clouds twisted like a warning. As I held the phone to my ear, I heard the ringing tone. And then, an explosion. I didn't hear thunder, only a flash of a blinding white light. Then my body was thrown backward like a wax figure collapsing under some invisible force. I didn't have time to feel fear. I only felt silence. A silence so deep I could hear myself coming undone. But the strangest part wasn't the light. It wasn't the lightning. It was when I opened my eyes and saw myself lying motionless on the ground. I'll share the moment my soul separated, and the very first thing I heard. It was not the voice of a human. I opened my eyes. Not my physical eyes, but a kind of expanded awareness. I was floating, not touching the ground, no weight, no edges to my body. And yet, I was still me. I looked down. There, on the rain-soaked concrete, lay a middle-aged man, motionless. His shirt was singed, blood trickled from his forehead, and in his hand he still gripped the public phone as if he hadn't yet wanted to let go. I thought to myself, poor guy, he looks bad. Then suddenly a whisper. But it didn't come from outside. It came from somewhere inside me. "Daniel, that's you." Everything froze, like time had just been unplugged. Me? I looked again. The shoes. The wedding ring was removed. The mole on my right wrist. Undeniable. I panicked, but I wasn't afraid. It felt like that gut-dropping moment when you suddenly remember you left your child behind at the grocery store. Shock, disbelief, and something quietly, terribly shattering. And then the light came. Not blinding, not hot. It felt like it could breathe, like it was alive, like it had consciousness. It didn't just surround me, it embraced me. And then, a voice neither male nor female, not heard through the ears, but flowing directly into every cell of my awareness. It's time to look back. I saw a spiral, like a reel of film playing in reverse. I saw myself at 5 years old, crying under the table while my parents fought. I saw my mother's last hug at the airport, the one I dismissed as annoying. I saw my son, standing in the rain, waiting for me when he was 10, while I was stuck in a meeting. And I saw moments I didn't even remember, but the looks in other people's eyes I will never forget. Every emotion I had ever felt, I felt it all. The pain I gave others became my pain. The joy I gave others became light within me. I started to cry, but there were no tears, only a raw, absolute nakedness. There was nothing left to hide, and no one to judge me. Only one question echoed through it all. Have you learned how to love? I didn't know how to answer. I had loved my wife. I loved my son. I loved my work. But the light remained silent, as if waiting for me to be honest. Not what you loved, but how you loved. Just as I was about to answer, I realized I was no longer there. In the next part, I'll share what happened next, the place I was taken to, and the invitation that made me hesitate. You can stay, or you can go back. I don't know how I was taken there. There were no footsteps, no movement. Only light quietly flowing like waves, pulling me into a space that couldn't be defined. No ground, no sky. Just a realm of being where questions needed no language and answers came from the deepest feeling in the heart. I was no longer Daniel the doctor, no longer the divorced man, no longer the proud rational mind. I was a part of something greater, a part I had forgotten long, long ago. In that place, every pain I had ever carried was gone. No more shame, no more fear of rejection, no more need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't want to go back. How could I, when here I was truly loved without needing to be worthy? Then the presence spoke again, soft as breath, yet resonating through every particle of my consciousness. You may stay. I melted into the feeling, a complete surrender. But then, the voice continued. Or return. Someone is still waiting for you. I gasped. My son. In an instant, I saw those same eyes. The same eyes from when he was 10, standing in the rain with a flimsy plastic poncho, waiting for me to finish a meeting. I remembered the question from the light. Have you learned how to love? I had loved, but I had never fully given that love. I had lived, but I had never truly been present. If I go back, what am I supposed to do? I asked. Light responded not with words, but with a knowing that filled every part of me. Love, and tell this story. I hesitated. A part of me screamed, "No, it's too beautiful here. No one can hurt me here anymore." But another part, smaller, trembling, but the most honest part of me whispered, "There's still something I haven't finished." And then I fell. No pain, no panic, just the feeling of being gently pulled from the most tender embrace back into a hard place, cold and full of limitations. I opened my eyes. My body ached. My chest felt like it was crushed beneath stone. There was a breathing tube in my mouth. Surgical lights are above my head. A nurse screamed, "He's awake! Get the doctor now!" Everything was blurry, but inside me, everything was brilliantly clear. I hadn't returned as the man I once was. I had come back reborn, carrying a memory that no one would believe. In the next part, I'll tell you how I faced the old world again and what happened when I told my story to the very first person. Waking up in the hospital felt like being thrown out of heaven and into a faded world. I was no longer there, but there was still within me. The nurse cried, the doctor was stunned. They said my heart had stopped for almost 4 minutes. Lightning had struck the payphone directly. My motor reflexes should have been gone. My brain is damaged. But I could still speak. I could still remember. And more than anything, I could feel. The first person I wanted to see, it was my son. He stood at the doorway of the recovery room, thinner, quieter, and somehow unsure. I looked at him. I didn't say a word. I simply reached out my hand. No logic, no explanations, no science. Just the gaze of a father who had died and didn't want to lose one more thing. He hugged me. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't apologize with words. I just placed my hand gently on his back, and he cried, and I came back to life. I was discharged after 12 days. Reporters showed up. A doctor struck by lightning and survived it made for a great headline. But when I started sharing the rest of the light, the question, "Have you learned how to love?" they stopped recording. One editor told me bluntly, "The science part is great, but leave out the spiritual stuff. No audience is going to believe that." I smiled, because I used to be one of those no audience. I began to write, not to publish, but so I wouldn't forget. I wrote down every dream, every detail from that journey, the light, the faces, the memories that played like slow-motion film, and especially the feeling. When I heard that question like a bell echoing deep in my chest, "Have you learned how to love?" I returned to teaching, but I no longer lectured on neuroscience. I requested to teach an elective instead, consciousness and life beyond the physical. My first class had just 4 students. They smirked. I opened the session with one sentence. I used to prove that consciousness was a product of the brain. Now I have just one question. If the brain is dead, who was the one watching me die? The room fell silent. I no longer cared to debate. I just wanted to share, and to be present, truly. With my son, when he wants to talk about a girl he likes. With a patient, what they need is a hand to hold, not a diagnosis. With myself, when I wake up in the morning and no longer feel empty. I'm not searching for the light anymore, because it's right here in every breath, in every handheld, in every act of forgiveness, in every silent nod that says, "I see you, and you're enough." I'm not telling this story to prove anything. I'm telling it because maybe you're carrying the same question I once did, a question I'll carry for the rest of my life. And one day, I'll speak of what truly changed me forever. Not death itself, but the moment I realized I had just been born for the second time. Do you know what it feels like to be born? I don't mean when the doctor smacks you or when you cry in a cradle. I mean that moment when you open your eyes and realize you've never really lived. And now, for the very first time, you are. I once died. But maybe what's scarier than death is existing as if you've never truly lived. I used to move through each day buried in a full schedule, endless meetings, emotionless stares, and relationships built only on obligation. I thought I was successful, but in truth, I was just collapsing slowly, until everything was stripped from me. My body, my identity, my status, my logic, and I came face to face with the only question the light ever asked me. Have you learned how to love? It's not about whether you love someone. It's about this. Do you have the courage to love without conditions? Are you present enough to see that the person in front of you needs you more than they need your advice? Are you willing to sit beside someone in pain without offering a fix? Can you forgive when doing so doesn't make you right? I'm not a preacher. I'm still human, still flawed, still tired at times, still needing moments alone. But after that, I live differently. I slow down when my son talks. I set my phone aside during dinner. I hold my patients' hands when they cry. I laugh more, not because I'm always happy, but because I'm grateful. Grateful for another chance. Grateful that I died. Grateful that I'm truly alive. I'm sharing this story not to make you believe. I'm telling this story so that if one day you find yourself standing at the edge of loss, of separation, of despair, wondering, does any of this mean anything? You'll remember there is a light. And that light is already here. Right now. In the smallest of things. You don't need to die to begin truly living. But you do have to let go of the old so that real life has room to enter. If you're afraid of dying, maybe it's because you haven't fully lived. Start now. And how will you answer if that light ever asks, have you learned how to love? If this story touched something in you, leave a comment. Tell me what woke you up. Was it a hug, a loss, or maybe just a moment of silence? I read every word you write, and maybe your story will be the light someone else has been waiting for. Hit follow if you too are on a journey to rediscover the meaning of life, so I can keep sharing with you the stories that remind us all we were never alone.